raw water?
Raw water is natural water found in the environment that has not been treated and does not have any of its minerals, ions, particles, bacteria, or parasites removed. Raw water includes rainwater, groundwater, water from infiltration wells, and water from bodies like lakes and rivers.
What is water treatment? Water treatment is a process to make water from a reservoir consumable for individuals. Besides drinking, it can also be used for irrigation, industrial water supply, or water recreation. The two main reasons for treating water are to remove those contaminants that are harmful to health and to remove contaminants that make the water look, taste, or smell bad. Here are the properties of water. Let us first start with physical properties. The physical properties are temperature, color, turbidity, specific heat, conductivity, density and weight, surface tension, adhesion and cohesion, meniscus, capillary action and compressibility. Water temperature is a physical property expressing how hot or cold water is. What is the color of water? The water is in fact not colorless. Water blueness comes from the water molecules absorbing the red end of the spectrum of visible light. Next, it is turbidity. It is the relative measure of clarity in a liquid. Some examples that makes the water turbid are clay, silt, organic and inorganic matters, and microorganisms. Next physical property is specific heat. The heat of water is the amount of heat needed to raise its temperature a certain amount. Water has to absorb 4.184 joules of heat for the temperature of 1 gram of water to increase 1 degree Celsius. We will now move on to conductivity. Pure water is actually an excellent insulator and does not conduct electricity. Water that would be considered pure would be distilled water and deionized water.
Let's head on surface tension. It is the measure of the force, external, necessary to stretch or break the surface of a liquid. Water has high surface tension because of hydrogen bonding and it resists stretching and breaking. Examples are striders and the Jesus lizard. Cohesion is the property of water to be attracted to another water, and adhesion is the property of water to be attracted to other substances. While meniscus is the curve in the surface of water when it touches another material. And capillary action is the movement of water in a porous material due to the influences of surface tension, cohesion and adhesion. Next is the chemical properties, namely pH level, salinity, alkalinity and hardness of water. For pH level, pH is the measure of acidity and basicity. Water has a neutral pH, it is neither acidic nor basic. The pH varies when other substances is dissolved in water. The salinity is the amount of concentration of dissolved salt in water. Say we bathe with soap using rainwater, we feel that the water is soft, but if we use tap water, it forms scum from the soap, thus the water is hard. It consists of dissolved calcium and magnesium. Heading to biological properties, water is polar and is known as the universal solvent. When water freezes, it expands. When in solid state, H2O molecules forms a crystal lattice. Water has adhesive and cohesive properties. This what allows plants to gather water from the soil all the way through the leaf.
Odd facts about water that might quench your curiosity. Water is heavier than hot water, and hot water can actually freeze faster than cold water, under certain circumstances. Only 1% of the world's water is drinkable. Water doesn't actually conduct electricity very well, but the impurities found in water do. Drinking too much water can kill you. It's called water intoxication. The expiration date on water bottles is for the bottle, not the water. Although when the bottle expires, it may start to leak chemicals into the water. This, however, is usually not life-threatening, but might change the taste. 13. Your bones consist of 31% water. There is more fresh water in the atmosphere than in all of Earth's rivers combined. Water is the only substance to be found naturally on Earth in 3 states: solid, liquid, and gas.
The water supply of the Philippines can be obtained from different resources, such as groundwater resources, rainfall, and surface water resources, i.e. rivers, lakes, and reservoirs. It has 18 major river basins and 421 principal river basins. American Samoa defined by the National Water Regulatory Board. The surface water is defined as water found in a river, lake, or other surface cavity. This water is typically not very high in mineral content, and somehow called soft water (EAR). There are 79 lakes in the Philippines, most of those are utilized for fish production. Laguna Lake, with a total area of 3,813.2 square kilometers, is considered as the country's largest lake and one of the largest lakes in Southeast Asia. On the other hand, Lake Lanao is known as one of the 17 ancient lakes on Earth and the largest lake in Mindanao. Water that contained in or by a subsurface layer of soil or rock is called groundwater. There are a lot of sources recharging the supply of groundwater, which includes the rivers that disappears underground. Philippines Environmental Monitoring is the one that monitor and measure accurately the effects of every activity on our environment. The list of data from the Philippines Environment Monitor, PEM, represent that while some regions are favored with high potential source of surface water, others have limited supplies, as shown in the table below. The report also mentions that groundwater contributes 14% of the total water resource potential of the country. Water quality, as defined by the Philippine Clean Water Act of 2004, is the characteristic of water that defines its use and is measured in terms of physical, chemical, biological, bacteriological, or radiological characteristics. The Department of Environment and Natural Resources has a number of ambient standards for measuring water quality. The responsibility for governing and supervising the exploration, development, utilization, and conservation of the country's natural resources is within the said agency. The inclusion of classifications for both surface and coastal water are stated in the DENR Administrative Order No. 34 or DEO 34. These parameters include dissolved oxygen, biochemical oxygen demand, total suspended solids, total dissolved solids. Water quality standards are adopted by states to protect public health or welfare, enhance water quality, and serve as the purpose of Clean Water Act. The data gathered from the EMB represents that as of 2005, it has classified 525 water bodies in terms of best usage and water quality. 263 are principal rivers, 213 are minor rivers, 7 are lakes, and 42 are coastal and marine waters. This means that only 39% of the 525 water bodies may be considered as potential sources of drinking water. From the year 2001 to 2005, the EMB monitored a total of 196 inland surface waters, 192 rivers and 4 lakes. Of the 196 monitored water bodies, only 127 met the required 4 sampling events and were included in the analysis. Dissolved oxygen is the amount of oxygen that is dissolved in water and is essential to healthy streams and lakes. It is also a water quality parameters used as an indication of how polluted the water is and how well the water can support aquatic plant and animal life. Generally, the national standard for dissolved oxygen is 5 mg per liter, except for water bodies classified as Class D and Class SD, with standards set at 3 mg per liter and 2 mg per liter respectively. And the national standards for biochemical oxygen demand vary from 1 to 15 mg per liter, based on beneficial water usage and classification. Next is the total suspended solids or TSS parameter. TSS parameter measures the amount of undissolved solid particles in water such as level of siltation, decaying plant and animal matter. Out of 46 Class A/AA water bodies monitored for TSS, about 23% have good water quality, 69% have fair water quality, and 8% have high TSS levels. And lastly, the total dissolved solids or TDS. This parameter is generally used as an aggregate indicator of the presence of a broad array of chemical contaminants. About 55% have good TDS levels, which mean that these water bodies comply with set water quality criteria based on their intended beneficial use. And for water bodies classified as Class AA, the standard for total dissolved solids levels is expected not to exceed 500 mg per liter, and 1000 mg per liter for both Class A and D waters.
Again! Salamat kayo!
Engineers Without Borders, University of Delaware chapter, just recently went to the Philippines, specifically in Bohol, Ubuhan. While we were there, we met with the community that we have recently partnered up with. We found this community through my grandparents that my grandfather actually grew up in. The first couple days, we just completed community surveys where we went around and asked as many households as possible what their water situation was, how they felt about it, and how they felt about us being there, because an essential part of us coming into a community is making sure they don't feel like we're intruding and making sure that it's a partnership instead of just us coming. And then the next couple days, we also did water testing. We did find that most of the water would have failed normal inspections. They had E. coli presence. It had a lot of hardness and a lot of suspended solids, which is bad for drinking and ingesting. We will be planning to do a second assessment trip to go back and make sure that our samples were correct and retest, see if the water's changed or anything, see what the community has done. So we gave them a couple tasks. The water council that they've created, we told them to do water catchment measurements, and just to make sure that they're committed to see how much they've done, how enthusiastic they are, and then we'll hopefully begin implementing after that second assessment trip. Just knowing that there's people out there that don't have the capabilities that we do, being able to bring our capabilities and help so many people is just an experience in itself.